Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, or if it's your first time here, hello. I'm David and we've got an awful lot going on today. We've got a trip down memory lane, we've got a game for you to look at, we've got challenges, we've got crafting ideas, loads to cover. Let's roll. So right out of the gate, this is not a paid promotion, it is not sponsored content. The game we are going to be talking about is out of print, but that doesn't mean that it's dead. There is a very active community on Facebook and I'm going to leave a link down in the description of this video. Pop over there and grab yourself in the file section a free copy of the rulebook for this, Terminator Genisys, The War Against the Machines. Now, if you've seen any of my previous videos, I have touched on the fact that I really do enjoy this game. It's an excellent little skirmish game, small squad size, so you don't need massive amounts of figures or armies or anything like that to play it. It's very easy to pick up. The first games I played were with my kids, one of which was a preteen, one was a teenager, and we picked it up very quickly, or they did. I was refereeing, and we managed a couple of games over the course of the evening and great fun was had by all. A little while later we were supposed to have a scheduled D&D game and it got cancelled because not enough people turned up. So this got hauled out and again I played referee while a couple of my mates picked it up in about 15 minutes and suddenly there was people talking in Austrian accents and doing movie quotes and a good time was had by all. Why am I bringing this to your attention? Well, apart from the fact that it is a really cool game to play, it does touch on my childhood. Yes, I am of a certain age, and I would not have been old enough to legally go to the movies when the very first Terminator movie came out. But that doesn't mean catchphrases were not being used around the schoolyard. Some of them not necessarily the kind of thing that teachers would like to hear. But it has been an ongoing franchise across the years and okay, so the later movies may have bombed at the box office. This one certainly did, even though I enjoyed it. And it could have contributed to the fact that the game didn't necessarily take off as well as it could have. But because it is now out of print, it does mean that it is miniature agnostic. So you can use whatever you've got to hand, or make up something new, or grab stuff from other manufacturers and paint it up accordingly, or download free STL files and resin print your miniatures. It's all good stuff. So what the guys are doing, and this is the challenge, is that over the course of 3 months, March, April and May, we get tasked with making an army force. It's only a small force, at most 20 miniatures and a vehicle. So it is definitely the kind of force that you can complete in 3 months. That's their challenge. My challenge to you is have a game. Get over to that Facebook group, download the rules and get some miniatures out on the table and give it a shot. Okay? It is well worth it, trust me. And then hopefully after that you're going to want to paint up an appropriate force for yourself. So what kind of things can you use? If you play Warhammer 40k, if you've got a couple of squads of Cadians or really good stand-ins and some Necrons, there you are. That's all you need. Something for the good guys, something for the bad guys. Now once you've had a go of playing the game and hopefully you like what you see, you may want to go down the track of getting some of the original stuff to build up your force. Or you can use proxies, that's fine, we'll get to that in a minute. There is either this game, and you could have a copy sitting away in a cupboard that you've, forgotten about. Terminator Genisys, the miniatures game, this has all of, or most of the miniatures in that you would need for the challenge. Or there is another game called Terminator Genisys Rise of the Resistance, and that has copies of these miniatures in as well. And they're both great for this. So what do we have? Well, I was lucky enough and liked the game enough that I actually bought multiple sets of this. So inside the box we have a number of miniatures. We've got Terminator endoskeletons, and we have Resistance fighters. In the box itself you get 10 of the Terminators, 16 of the Resistance. That is all that is needed for the challenge, but because I've got multiple sets I'm going to be doing slightly larger forces and I'll do painting guides for them. What else? Well, there is the rulebook itself. Now, you'll have downloaded a copy and it's well worth it, if nothing else, for all of the extras that are in there. So the rules are there, all of the army lists are there, there is painting guides, there is terrain making guides for all of you crafters and folk like that. So it's a nice little one-stop shop, even if it's just getting the pages for the crafting stuff. Alright, just do download it. Alright, so that is the troops taken care of. What else is going to be needed? Now, for the official challenge, they have said on the Resistance side, 16 troops, 1 vehicle and 4 character or leader models. On the Terminator side, we've got 10 endoskeletons, 1 vehicle and 1 infiltrator. Easy enough to do. Let's have a look at troops first. Obviously, if you can get your hands on the original miniatures for the game, so much the better. Nice weapon mix. The one thing about it is that there is a mix of what we would consider modern weaponry, like assault rifles, shotguns, rocket launchers, grenade launchers. All of those have varying degrees of usefulness against Terminators. Plus they've got advanced weaponry like plasma guns. Alright, so there's a nice mix in there. One go-to that I've seen an awful lot of the fellas using is figures from this range. So this is Project Z from Warlord Games. That's the male survivors. I've also got female survivors. It's not gender specific. Everyone's fighting for survival. So you can certainly dip into those. And if in your bits box you've got some advanced weaponry left over from Warhammer 40k, drop that in. These actual miniatures do tend to wear body armour and helmets in some cases. So as I said before, Cadian shock troops are an ideal stand-in for these guys. Also anything like SWAT teams from modern day, or all of those guys that have got flak jackets and helmets, any kind of those miniatures are ideal. Terminators are a slightly different kettle of fish. Now, the guys are busy compiling a list as we speak of manufacturers that have miniatures for the whole game that can be substituted in. So there's going to, if you have a look over there, you'll see stuff that people have subbed in. Just remember that the span of the movies is quite a range in time, and so you have some earlier Terminators that look far more blocky than the polished ones in later movies. So anything can be used, just give it a silver paint job. So for example, I could quite easily do a stand-in using my Cybermen force that I did in a very recent video. That's the troops covered off. Now let's talk about vehicles. Now when it comes to vehicles, I have built up enough armies in my lifetime to know that vehicles can be one of the most expensive parts to any army. It's bad enough if you only need one. If you need a squadron of them, then you may as well go and take out a mortgage. Certainly when it comes to certain manufacturers that we shall not mention on this channel. However, with Terminator Genisys, it does not have to be like that. There are cheap ways of going about it, some very cheap ways, and then there are the more expensive ways. We'll cover both of those. So, looking at the Resistance first. All of their stuff is going to be stuff that is in use today. So it is everything from cars all the way up to main battle tanks and everything in between, including Apache attack helicopters, transport helicopters. And I'm pointing these out because these are simply kids' toys. I would have picked these up for less than $10 New Zealand, which is about £5 sterling, $7 US, something like that. That's really cheap for a vehicle, let's face it. And absolutely anything in between. Trucks are a valid unit. A tow truck here, line some resistance soldiers along the back and it's suddenly become a troop transport. This one I got specifically because, if you remember, back at the start of the very first Terminator movie, Arnie arrives next to a rubbish truck. So that one can be done in a 1984 style setting with a, I think I'm going to have to do that, a yellow repaint. Okay, but that's the reason why I got that one. You can obviously go down the proper model track if you so wish. Just make sure that the scale that you're going to be using for your tanks is the same that is in use for the rest of your vehicle, otherwise it looks a little bit silly. But, you know, there or thereabouts is pretty good. So as an example, the Army list has a Bradley APC. In my case, I have upgraded an old M113 armoured personnel carrier that is fitted with a Vulcan anti-aircraft gun from the Vietnam War era. Perfectly fine as a stand-in, okay, and it looks really good. I was really chuffed with that model. So that is your resistance covered off in terms of vehicles. You've got an absolute load of scope for the one vehicle that you need for the challenge. Terminators are going to be a little bit different. Now, you can get official models. So this one is a Cinemachines replica, which was a Christmas present by my daughter, because I specifically asked for one, of an HK Hunter Killer flyer. So that was a little bit on the pricey side. The big Hunter Killer tread tanks also come in the Cinemachines range, but I have used a stand-in, and this is, let me refer to my notes, a Bandai RTX 65 early Gundam, and I left a few of the bits off so that it didn't look out of place and just gave it a chrome paint job, and it's got all the correct sort of weaponry in the right place, and it's a tread tank and it's big, so I'm really happy with that one. The only other list is a Spider tank, which you saw in Terminator Genisys. Here's a picture of one just so that you know what I'm talking about. You can get STL files for this, and I do have a friend who has a resin printer, and he has very kindly been voluntold that he's going to be doing a print for me. So that's what I'm going to be using for my vehicle when it comes to the challenge. The last part of the list is the characters. Resistance, dead easy. All you have to do is get 4 figures and make them stand out in some way. It can be a slightly different paint job, it can be upgraded weaponry, or, you know, use something from a slightly different range and make them individual so that they stand out in some way. So it can be seen by either side that that is an actual character figure, that's a leader, that's one of the guys to watch out for and shoot quickly. Not that I'm condoning that kind of thing, but you're going to in any case, let's face it. Resistance is dead easy, not a problem. The Terminators, on the other hand, well, they're actually pretty easy as well, because you only need one of them, and that is an infiltrator. Now, an infiltrator is not an endoskeleton that you can see that it's a robot and you know to shoot it. It's a proper Terminator like Arnie was. It's got the covering, it can blend in with humans, it kind of hides away in with the rebellion forces, and then suddenly, bah, okay, start shooting everybody. So any suitable figure can be used as an infiltrator. If you really want to go down the track of having a young Arnie physique, then something like a Katakan jungle troop from your Imperial Guard army. That's certainly got the muscles and biceps for a young Arnie. If you want to go for a slightly upgraded model, like the gelatinous metal T-1000 that was in Terminator 2 or came back in Terminator Genisys as well, then you can take any figure and, you know, hack off the arm, put a long piece of plastic on that's pointy and paint that silver. And so, you know, that's the stabby thing that he used in the movie. It is all very easy. Easy forces to do, and I am not going to be doing the challenge once. I am actually going to be doing it twice. I will do a full force for the Resistance and I will do a full force for the Terminators. Because apart from anything else, I have my own ongoing challenge of going through my old miniatures and actually getting through some of them and getting them painted up and getting them on the table. Plus, it also means that, hey, you'll have a video painting guide of how to do your forces as we're going through those 3 months of the challenge. That is about it from me. And normally I would say see you next time, but because of the subject matter, let's just say I'll be back.